Hello, I'm back again and I wanted to do a quick video on podcasts I think you should really listen to. So, I have blogged quite a lot about podcasts I really like. I feel like this jumper's really drawing attention to my boobs, so please bear with me. But I have like 2 subscribers, so we're fine. So, first of all, if you are new to podcasts and you have an iPhone, I know this sounds crazy, but before I listened to podcasts, I was a bit like, I don't know how to listen to them. Like, I didn't know where to get them from. You can get them from so many places that it almost makes it confusing. Like, you can stream them actually from the podcast website. But then you can there's also a podcast app on your phone, like on your iPhone anyway. You can also download them from iTunes. They're completely free, so you don't have to worry about that. And then I think you can also get them from places like Audible. I personally just go straight to the podcast app on my phone. It's right there. It makes it really easy. It's a bit like going to Spotify or music. It's just on there. It links up to iTunes website, wherever, I don't know. But you can basically go through the charts, so you can go through your own personal ones that you've subscribed to. And that's where I get mine from. They just come in a big long list like this. Can you see? And I find that really easy. And for me, it's a great alternative to listening to music. I used to be a Spotify holder, but I'm not anymore. So I find myself just buying albums and downloading them rather than streaming them. I do have Amazon Prime, but I never use it on my phone. I only use it on my laptop. So I find it a really nice alternative to listening to music, especially when I'm working at home alone and I'm a little bit lonely, because I feel like blogging is quite solitary. And even if my boyfriend is at home working, he is always in another room. He is not talking to me. He does not want to know I exist between the hours of 9 till 6. He does not chat. He is on the phone. He's in spreadsheets. He is no help at all, apart from using my phone to talk to my friends, who most of them work, so that's no help. Apart from, chatting to my friends. I don't really get to talk to anybody between the hours of 9 till 6 if I'm working from home. Obviously, if I'm making meetings in London, it's different, but it's fine. But I find podcasts are really nice because you can zone out and almost like have a friend, even though that makes me sound like a very lonely loser. But I find podcasts really nice because it's not just music, it's talking, and it's a nice break from listening to music, because otherwise I can listen to like 10 albums in a day, which is just too many. Whereas podcasts, I can listen to like different ones, and some of them are like more about work and motivation and social media and kind of being creative and working for yourself, and then some of them are more like murders, so you have different options. I'm going to talk through some of my favourite podcasts that I think you should listen to. Just did a blog post on this, so feel free to go have a look at it if you want to, but you don't have to. And I will try and remember in the show notes or the description thing that's underneath to actually type out what they are, and then just search for them in the podcast app, and boom, you'll find them. So first of all, if you are new to Serial, the first one I would suggest listening to before you start any others is Serial. Can you see that? My phone's got a crack in the screen as well. First of all, you need to listen to Serial. That was the first podcast that I ever listened to, and it was a podcast that got me into podcasts. Because before, I listened to podcasts, and somebody said to me, like, oh, do you listen to podcasts? I was like, no, not even a little bit. It was Serial that got me into podcasts. It's great. It is basically about a man who is now in prison, and he was accused and convicted of killing his high school girlfriend, and it kind of follows it week by week and looks at, basically was he guilty and why he was convicted, and how the main person who testified against him possibly was a little bit dodge, and it kind of it's very interesting. And there may have been like an alibi which was completely overlooked and wasn't even called to court. Very, very, very interesting, very informative, kind of it's got moments where it is quite sweet and almost humorous, but it's really interesting, a little bit sad, but it's really, 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 really good. You need to listen to it. First one you need to listen to. Okay, next one. This is actually one of my friends. This is hashtag authentic. Can you see that? Hashtag authentic. God, my screen is just dreadful. It's called hashtag authentic. It's by a friend of mine who's also a blogger, Instagrammer, all-round great person. She is called Sarah, and she does the account Me and Orla. She has a podcast now called hashtag authentic, and it is very good. She has given me so much help on Instagram. Her account is a million miles away from mine. My account's like super colourful, loads of flat lays, loads of like really pretty things, loads of beauty products, colour. And then her account is like very woodsy and natural and white and ethereal and kind of magical and earthy and like everything that my account is not, that is hers. Like mine is light and bright and colourful. Hers is dark and moody and woody and white and like all those things. But her account's beautiful. I love it. I love her. She's also northern. I love chatting to her. I don't know how we didn't meet when we both lived in Manchester, but she's brilliant, and her podcast, hashtag authentic, is brilliant. She has given me so much helpful advice, both in person, in conversation, and also in her podcast, hashtag authentic. So if you have an Instagram account, if you're struggling with the algorithm, if you are struggling to be creative, if you are struggling to get the followers, if you are getting frustrated with people following and unfollowing you, you need to listen to this podcast. It's bloody brilliant. So that's hashtag authentic. Okay, now I'm going to go on to someone knows something. So again, murders. I really like murder podcasts, so if you're not into true crime, I'm sorry, but I promise I will mix in others. So Someone Knows Something, they've done 2 series now. The first one was very slow paced. It was about like basically 40 years ago, a child went missing during a fishing trip with his dad, and it's a bit like what happened to him. And they try and investigate. And then the next one is a bit meatier. There's a bit more of a story. It's a bit like it's a bit more gripping. The first one's very slow paced. It's quite weirdly relaxing, even though they're talking about death. But like it's very like lots of descriptions on like, you know, landscapes and, you know, a man with wisdom in his eyes. You know, there's a lot of that and just description, and it's really nice to listen to actually, even though it's quite sad because obviously a boy disappeared. But the second series is much meatier. Basically, the second series is the one you need to listen to. I would listen to the first one because I did, and I loved the first one, but then I liked the second one so much more because it's so much better. Basically, in the second series, a guy called Mike Lavoie, he proposed to his girlfriend on TV at a New Year's Eve kind of local televised party. He proposed to her, and then like literally 3 days later she went missing, and then a day after that he tried to commit suicide. Yeah, and it basically investigates that story and has loads of different like kind of people talking about what she was like, what he was like looking at the footage and kind of like wondering what happened, why there was a reason. Like, it's really good, and it's so good. You need to listen to it. I would say listen to season 1. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. But if you're not getting on with season 1 and you're just like, not for me, don't discount Somebody Knows Something before you listen to season 2, because season 2 is bloody brilliant. Somebody Knows Something. You need to listen. Okay, now I'm going to talk about Reply All. So Reply All is really hard to sell because it's the tagline is a show about the internet, which I was a bit like, oh, because even though I spend all my time online, I was a bit like, God, what's that going to be like? But actually it's bloody hilarious. It just looks at all these things that have happened online and kind of like talks about what surrounded it. and then kind of investigates it. So, God, there's been so many good things, but like everything's basically like the only theme to it is that it's found on the internet, if that makes sense. So they will investigate anything from like One Direction to to a girl who broadcasted a photo of herself every 15 minutes from her bedroom for like 10 years or 5 years or however long it was. Her name was Jenny Cam. And kind of like talk about that. There's so many good episodes. One of them being where they discovered a website where you can go to it if you are tripping on acid and you just want somebody to be like, it's okay, you're still alive. And then they basically start talking to a doctor who talks about the benefits of taking acid, I know. And then they decide to take small amounts of acid, which is called microdosing. And it is hilarious because they do it at work. And it's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of acid. And I'm actually quite anti-drugs. But listening to it was so funny because they were taking like the smallest amount of acid basically was like dissolved into like a large amount of water, and then they drank a tiny amount of water every other day for like 4 days or something. So we're talking about the tiniest amount of acid. But basically the whole episode is about what happened for that week or week and a half of them taking microdoses of acid. And it's funny. And it's also really informative, and it's a little controversial because not everybody wants to hear about that. But that's just one episode, and there's like 80 episodes, and it's very good, and I would highly recommend it. And God, there's so many good episodes. Like there's one about prison blogger who basically writes this blog about his life in prison, and he has to write it on paper, and then he sends it to his mum, and his mum types it up. So there was one episode, there was like 3 parts of an episode about that. They talk about like, oh, when you see like websites which are like doctors.com, and then you go to it and it's nothing, and it's basically like somebody's trying to like, somebody owns that website and like basically wants to sell it, and it talks about that, which is really interesting. There was an episode about the YouTuber Marina Joyce, who was kidnapped by ISIS a while ago. Like, it's very funny, it's very informative, it's nice hearing about the internet, but not the beauty fashion world bit that I'm normally in. I really enjoy it. It's very good. Please listen to it. It is really good, even though I'm describing it incredibly badly. I have listened to like literally all 80 episodes. Some of them I've listened to 2 times over. It's very good. S-Town. Okay, so S-Town is actually Shittown, but they censor themselves, but I'm not censoring myself, so that's why I've called it Shittown, just so you all know. It comes from the creators of This American Life and Serial, and it is 8 episodes. We're all downloaded at once. I listened to it in one day. I bloody loved it. And it starts off like, it's just this tale that like twists and turns and you don't know where it's going to go, and you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, whoa, I didn't see that coming. But it's a true story, and basically it's about a man who lives in Alabama, and he was convinced that there had been a murder that had been covered up because the guy who did it was the child of a rich local family. Turns out very quickly there was no murder, there was nothing covered up, but it just keeps going. It's great. Listen to it. It's called S-Town. This is what it looks like. God, my screen, it's so embarrassing. It's like I've got a hobo phone. Let's see what else. Oh, the mystery show. I love this show so much. And they only made 1 series, which was like literally 6 episodes. And even though I feel really like lame, like promoting it, because basically, yeah, they all date back to 2015. So they're like 2 years old, and there's only 6 episodes, but you need to listen to it because it's so good. Like, it's so good that I want them to do more, and they didn't. Apparently the show got cancelled like between the 1st and 2nd series. The 2nd series never happened. But it's like, it's super indie, it's super twee, it's kind of whimsical but not annoying. And it's basically this girl who sounds quite young, but she's obviously grown up. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and she solves mysteries which are actually more meaningful than they might first appear. Like there's one episode about a belt buckle, which like a friend of this guy found in the street like 40 years ago, and she tries to find the owner to return it to him. So it's a tiny little thing, like it's a belt buckle, but she makes it into this big epic journey and discovery of finding the owner, who is like a cowboy chef. Like, it's brilliant. You need to listen to it. I love it. I've been tweeting her being like, please make more. She's like, I'm trying. And I'm like, well, crowdsource. Like, I love it. I love you. I want to be best friends with you. You're amazing. Fangirling all over the show. So next, I'm going to talk about Rookie. This is with Tavi, who you may remember from Style Rookie blog when she was like 11, and then she did the Rookie book series, and she has a website, and she's brilliant. She's like this child genius who's now 20, and I feel like I've been following her since she was literally 11. She is just brilliant. Like, you know, when you're like, she's brilliant. Like, even when she was like 12, people were like people who were grown-ups, like my friends who were like in their 20s, 30s were like, I love Taffy, I'll read anything she writes. And it's like, she's 11. She's 11. But she's amazing. She now has a podcast which I think is aimed at people much younger than me, but I just don't care. Like, I love it. I love her. I love it. It's great. The first episode was a big interview with Lorde, who she's friends with. She's just brilliant, and I love this podcast, and I loved listening to her chat to Lorde. And then she talked to the second episode was she interviewed some girls from Another Round podcast, and they were brilliant, and they were talking about anxiety and not making it like annoying bloggery, I have an anxiety, and they actually talked about the fact that people now talk about how they have anxiety to be relatable. Well, I'm not going to talk about that because that makes people annoyed that you're saying that people don't have anxiety. I don't know, it's become this almost like, and they say this in the episode, that anxiety has almost become a meme, but they actually talk about it and they do it in a really good way. And that's Rookie Podcast. There's only been 2 episodes so far, but you need to subscribe because it's great, and I can't wait for the next one. Missing Richard Simmons, I love that. I've actually deleted it now because it was a podcast series which was only ever going to be one series, and I listened to them all. I think I listened to it twice over each episode. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I loved hearing all about fitness guru Richard Simmons, who just is brilliant. Like, he was going to be a priest, and then he decided to be a fitness instructor, and he inspired so many people, and he wore sequins while doing it, and even when he was like 60, he was still teaching a class in like Hollywood, and just, he's so interesting, and it was so cool, and I loved it. And he just randomly went missing, and the whole podcast is basically like a love letter to him, basically being like, where are you, where did you go? Like, people were saying that he was transitioning, people were saying that he had been kidnapped, like there were all sorts of like theories about where he was. And it was a really good podcast. The only thing I would say is I listened to it week by week, and the episodes were like 20 minutes long, and I was always like, oh, 20 minutes, like that's not long enough, and I'd have to wait a whole week for the next episode. And I feel like I would have enjoyed it more. Even I'd enjoyed it loads, but I feel like I would have gotten more out of it if I could have just binge listened to all 6 episodes in one go. Because instead, I feel like I spent 6 weeks constantly waiting for the next episode, and I feel like it would have been a better listen to listen to it all in one go, which is what you can now do. So, Missing Richard Simmons, that is very good. What else? I've been listening to the Emma Guns show, which is like the beauty podcast. So if you are interested in beauty and the beauty industry, you might want to subscribe. I haven't listened to all the episodes. They can be quite interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird one. I've been kind of listening to it for work, but I haven't been like loving it like I loved Rookie. Like, because I love Rookie, and I love The Mystery Show, and I love Reply All, and I love Serial. I've been kind of like really interested, and it's really informative, and I feel like it's really good for me to listen to like as a person who kind of works in the beauty industry in terms of the fact that I blog about beauty. So yeah, I kind of do. So it's kind of interesting in that point of view, but like it doesn't fill my heart with joy. But you might want to listen to it. It's pretty good. I've subscribed, so I like it enough to subscribe. But it's no serial. There's no murder in it. No murder, no interest. Then next, what else do we have? Bear with me. Oh, Sword and Scale. If you enjoy another good murder, Sword and Scale is very good. There is one episode in particular, which is right at the beginning, which is about a serial killer called Belle Gunners, which is basically the best thing I've ever heard. She's this American woman who, back when like there were prairies, she had like, I think she killed like 40 people, and she kept like raking in all the insurance. She was basically the first person to ever do insurance fraud. She was like the biggest woman killer the world's ever seen. She is not talked about enough. She is like very good, very interesting. Sword and Scale can be very, very, very dark though. So some of the episodes I'm like too much, but other episodes I'm like it's brilliant. It's a very high risk, high reward podcast, but it's still worth listening to. If you want more of a British serial killer / murderer / true crime, They Walk Among Us is quite good. My boyfriend actually loves this one. I like it. I don't love it, but I have been listening to it. It's called They Walk Among Us, and it talks about more British true crime. So like the guy who faked his own death, you know, the canoe guy who faked his own death for like life insurance, another life insurance situation. But he faked his own death, so it talks about that and the story behind it. That was quite interesting. Serial killers, England, you know, it's pretty, like, I'm doing just a disservice to it, but it's pretty good, to be fair. What else have I been listening to? I have actually recently downloaded loads, but then I've also deleted loads, so I feel like I'm forgetting some that I should have probably not deleted because I'm forgetting what they were. Oh, there's one called Made of Human by Sophie Hagen. I'm not going to pretend I haven't listened to them all, but I've listened to some. Basically, she's a comedian. She's from Copenhagen, and she interviews somebody different every week, and it's about like being human, and we are all human, and none of us are nailing it, and we're figuring out how to be human together. And she has lots of other like why am I not getting the words out? Lots of other comedian friends who basically come on her podcast and talk about life and being human and their experiences, and it's very like life affirming, we're all okay kind of thing. It's quite nice. But I would particularly recommend the one with Jo Brand because she is very funny, very informative. She had a really nice section about like dealing with trolls and how basically trolls are just not that interesting. Like their offences will be like, oh, you're fat and you're stupid. And she's like, I used to work in mental health and I was dealing with people who were on actual meds, who had actual real issues. And she was like, to be fair to them, their insults that they threw out were brilliant. And she was like, some drunk guy just being like, oh, you're ugly. And she was like, it doesn't cut it. But that was a very good episode. And my absolute favourite was Josie Long, because I love Josie Long. She is brilliant. I love her. It was a great interview with Josie Long. Yeah, sometimes it's too life affirming for me. Like I feel like I need a bit more tough love than they give me on this podcast, but I still really enjoy it. Like it's very good. It's very good. It's very good. I don't know why I'm being negative. But yes, that is also very good. I haven't listened to them all, so I don't want to be like, I've listened to them all, I love them, because I haven't at all. But the one with Josie Long was great. The one with Jo Brand was great. I've listened to a couple of others that were good, great, but they were definitely my two favourites so far. But I'm looking forward to reading about the rest of them. I have downloaded a load more podcasts. However, I haven't listened to them all. I'm working my way through them. I'm trying really hard. But for now, they are my suggestions. And I will try and remember exactly which ones I've talked about so I can put them down there. I have talked for 25 minutes, which is an insane amount of time. So I'm sorry about that. I don't know who's going to get to the end of this. So if you're still here, do you know what? You may as well subscribe, because if you can hear me for 25 minutes one time, then you may as well just give it a go and press that subscribe button, because no one else is. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Bye.